I'm good. I'm good with whatever happens.
Hello, everybody. I know we're a few minutes early. Maybe people are already watching us, and if not, well, we'll hang out until you come. So I'm VJ. It's Veronica, as you know me mostly, and this is VJs Utopia. And welcome to everybody who's popping in to say hello. And let's see. Can you see the comment screen, Bruce?
I don't see it unless there's something I have to do to make it visible. Let me
see. I'm not quite sure if anybody's there. I don't see any comments yet.
Okay, so I see. There's a way I can see it, but it's not like on the same screen. Like I have to hit a little button to see it. And it kind of blocks the rest of the screen. Not that it matters. I don't need to see myself.
That's when you go to full screen. I see what you're saying.
Let me see. Should I do something to?
I don't know. Now you're gone.
Oh, hold on. There, now I'm back.
There you go.
Let's see. So I don't see a thing to make it full screen. I'm still sort of in the browser. What do I have to do to do that?
Well, if anybody's listening, we're newbies. I'm definitely a newbie, so I'm really appreciating it. Your patience with this. If you're watching and we're talking about some sort of admin specialty things we have to do to.
I did a thing that made me bigger. How about that? But
yeah, I'm going to view my channel on YouTube right now, which they say don't. It says it's live because it's like a minute lag between the two systems.
Interesting.
So if you're watching the YouTube, you can't listen to it because you'll be hearing yourself like weird. Not at the same time, in other words.
I always hear myself weird anyway, so. Well, you know what? I'm just going to roll with it this way and see what happens.
Hang out. Yeah, I can see it on YouTube now. And there's nobody there. That's okay. We have I think the last I checked said 28 or 30 people were certainly joining for sure.
Oh, well,
and there's 90 people interested in it. Which is Sunday, so I don't know.
It's only 5:31. So, by the way, as advertised, this guy decided to join us. So.
Aww. Is he a Lhasa or a Shih Tzu?
Shih Tzu.
Aww. I've had 3 Shih Tzus before.
This is Angus.
Hi, Angus. You're so pretty. You're so handsome, I should say. Aw, Angus is an angel.
Yeah, he's a good boy.
They are a grooming nightmare, though. I do know that. We had black and white ones.
I pay somebody to do that. I don't.
Yeah, of course. You can't. And they don't like it. But my Nutmeg, our first Shih Tzu we had, Nutmeg, she was black and white. She lived to be 18 and she died at the groomer, of all places.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, she was old. Stubborn. She would stand at that cabinet and bark for her treats until she got that treat, I'll tell you.
Well, Angus is only about 9 months, 10 months old.
So. Oh, wow, he's a baby.
Yeah.
Angus, you're so cute. Yeah, he's daddy's boy, I can tell.
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
Great. Well, I'm just impatient, aren't I?
Well,
to see people popping in. I guess you never know.
You never know. Like I wouldn't know how to even look, so.
Well, I think, yeah. It should have a way to show you that people are watching, I would think.
Sure.
In the comments room. I guess only if people make comments. But if someone's watching, if you wouldn't mind dropping a comment so we know that people are here, that would be great.
And like you said, if there's a lag on YouTube, that
Yeah, somebody's actually sending me a message on. I heard my Facebook Messenger go off, so I'm gonna pop over here for a second and see what
to make
that's
sure
all about.
people aren't having a problem getting in or something.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's always a possibility, I suppose, right? Oh, it's done. Okay, good. Maybe he'll tell me if he can see it. Don, are you watching? That's Don Slovan. He you met him in Hawaii. Actually,
Yep.
I gave him rides everywhere. You remember who he is?
Sure.
He
Yeah.
played the little drums. Yeah. He was really excited to hear about you. And they're doing in Woodstock an improv jam band thing,
Oh, nice.
actually, on both afternoons, which is nice.
Fun.
So he was like, well, maybe Bruce will come. I'm like, I don't know. I think he's probably going to be going nuts there, but
Well,
certainly
yeah,
let him know about it
I don't
anyway.
yet know what the schedule is, obviously.
Oh, I
but,
know. And you can only spread yourself so thin.
Yeah,
And that's going to be a really, really busy 3 days for sure.
it is. Yeah.
Okay, Don, are you watching? He didn't answer me, but somebody else is messaging me now. So let's see. This might be a complete disaster, Bruce, but I don't care. I'm still happy to talk to you no matter what.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Let's see who else is messaging me for the moment. Oh, okay. I can see Don below. Why don't I bring him in, huh? Since he's waiting to talk to you anyway. Might as well, or I can make him wait till I see more people there. It's up to you.
You're driving. I'm just.
I'm the driver. It's just, I guess, with these things that are live, you can't always depend on what you wanted to be. I'm finding that out, as you know, from being a performer. And sometimes it doesn't turn out what you planned on, right?
Well, sometimes you get interesting things that happen that make it a unique experience, shall we say.
Well, I'm going to bring Don, because Don is kind of funny and interesting anyway. So,
What?
Hi, Don.
Hi, do you hear me?
We do. Yes. I'm sure Bruce hears you too, because we've tested that and everything seems to be fine, except I don't know how to tell if anybody's watching, except that I sent you the link. Well, maybe you saw it, but anyway, Bruce, Don, Bruce, he knows who you are already.
Hi.
And I told him about your jam band improv already, so okay.
Well, I can shamelessly plug that, but let's go somewhere else.
No.
Because it's Bruce.
It is. It's all about Bruce. And I'm just, since we've never done this before, I can't tell if people are watching or not.
Yeah, StreamYard's worse than all of these platforms to do that with, because as you can see, I have the largest face ever.
Oh, that's because you're too close to your camera, I suppose.
Well, and then there you get all that stuff. But I also don't know how in Zoom I can change backgrounds. I can make it interesting. But right now it's just shamelessly plugging shit. But
what's your language, young man?
Shamelessly plugging things. So there's my Jam Prompt hat.
Oh, nice. How nice. Yeah.
There you go. So we can talk about that. But so Bruce, here's my questions. When I was in high school, I was in a big band called the what was it called? The something notes, I don't know. 16-piece big band.
Don's from New York too. He lives in Brooklyn.
No, but this was in Wilmington, Delaware.
Oh.
And 16-piece big band. We were in high school. I was in high school and put this thing together. It was not like the stage band from school. It was an actual other band. And we would have fallen apart if we actually tried to get paid. I mean, 16-piece big band. How does Ed do that?
Yeah, well, it's often 18 actually.
My God.
So getting paid is an interesting thing, and certainly at the beginning when Ed started doing it, the band's been in existence for about going on 40 years.
Wow.
And one of the things with the band is I don't think there's anybody that's in the band that's depending on it to pay their mortgage,
Right.
Yeah, that would be impossible. Only once a month it is, right, in the city? Because that's the first time I met you was when we were in New York for the Chasm show.
Right.
And we went to the Ed Palermo show the night before. It's so much fun, and it is just very, very fabulous.
I went to that one.
Yeah, it's fabulous. I remember that. Yeah.
The thing is, everybody pretty much in the band has a Broadway show that they play. That's kind of what they do for a living. And I'm not really a Broadway guy. I've played a couple of shows, but that's not my bag. So me, Katie Jacoby, Robbie Mangano, the other like sort of the rock people, if you will, in the band. They have rock bands that they play in. Katie plays with the Who, and
Right.
Robbie plays with whoever, Sean Lennon or Ricky Lee Jones. And I think because we don't sweat the money, we really have fun with it. I think if it's a grueling thing where you're just doing these shows like to try and scrape together the money that you might make from it, that kind of takes the joy out of it. We don't really expect to make any money off of it. So if we make a couple of $100 on a gig, we're happy with it. When we do play festivals, like we'll play the Zappa festivals, generally those kinds of things have money. Or
Plus,
we play
free dinner. Don't
right.
Clubs give you free dinners.
A big jazz festival. We've played, the Detroit Jazz Festival and the Syracuse Jazz Festival and the whatever, Clifford Brown Jazz Festival. Those kinds of things pay, but
Right.
those are, few and far between in the course of a year. So I think like, if you don't love that music that we're playing, you're not going to play this gig, right? Because that's the only reason to do it is because we really love it. And honestly, that's how you should approach most of your work. If you don't really like doing it, maybe find something to do.
Isn't that the truth? That is the honest to truth. Yes, it really is very important. Doug Rundgren Radio is watching us. Hi, Doug.
Hey, Doug.
Hey, Doug.
If you want to join in, click the link.
Can't even put the heart in because it's such a small screen. StreamYard sucks.
You have to
You
move
can,
that.
if you go into the settings in StreamYard, it'll let you do like a widescreen, but I don't know if that would be.
It's also multiple
Yeah,
people can play music at the same time. That's why people like StreamYard.
Ah,
That's what I have heard. How did Ed find you, or you find him?
Ed
Palermo. Yeah, that was one of the questions I was going to ask.
So it's really an interesting story, and it really plays very much into the same sort of path that got me playing with Todd, which was more this idea of it was a piece of advice my dad gave me, which was a very, very important piece of advice. My dad was also a musician, my mom also. And he said, prepare for the gig that you want. And that gig may never come your way. In fact, it probably won't. So do it anyway, because on the or really bizarre off chance that that gig shows up on your doorstep and you're not ready to take it, you will be kicking yourself for the rest of your life that you didn't prepare. And so I spent, a good portion of my life learning Zappa stuff, which is not a particularly useful thing in most contexts. It's not something that's going to give you much commercial viability. It's not something that every bar band can play and stuff like that. So, but it was just something I wanted to do. And when there was a show that was up in Nyack, and I got a call. Oh, well, I was on my way to go see the show because I wanted to see the band. And my friend Paul Adamy is the bass player, and he called me as I was getting dressed for the show. And he said, hey, what are you doing tonight? And I said, well, I'm actually coming to see your show. And he said, our singer has laryngitis. Would you be interested in singing tonight instead of seeing the show?
Wow.
Well, he was honest. That was nice. It wasn't like he was trying to, cozy up to you to get you to come. He told you like it was. I need somebody.
Yeah, and so I said, well, okay, what songs are we doing? And he said, well, I'm going to have Ed call you in a minute. I said, okay. So I hung up, and Ed called me a minute later and said, I'd never met Ed. He said, this is Ed Palermo. I said, hey, Ed. He said, Paul tells me you know every Zappa song. I said, that was a laugh, because you can't possibly do that. But I said, I'm relatively conversant in Zappa music. So he said, well, can you come and sing? And he listed off, 5 or 6 songs. And I said, yeah, I can whip those together. And he said, okay, sound check's in an hour. I said, all right, well, let me get going. And I hung up and realized I didn't know a couple of the songs that he said, but I just said I did. I mean, I knew the song, but I didn't know it well enough to perform it. And so I very quickly went to my computer and printed out some lyric sheets and put a couple of MP3s on my, back then my iPod Nano or whatever it was, to listen to in the car on the way to the show. And I got to the show, and I learned what a sound check is for Ed Palermo, which is basically playing the first 8 bars of the song and going, okay, let's move on to the next thing. So I didn't get any time to actually rehearse it or anything. And it's just like, okay, we're going to just do it. Which might be fine if it was, a Beatles show or a Led Zeppelin show or something, but Zappa's a little more complicated.
It's really complicated stuff.
Yeah. So there were some hairy moments, but it was fine. And I just assumed it would be that one event. Once the singer in the band got his voice back, it would go back to normal, and it did. But about 6 months later, Ed called me and said, "Okay, so the singer in the band moved to LA. Do you want the job permanently?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." But I wouldn't have even been able to say yes to that initial entree into it. I had not spent most of my life praying that would happen.
Wow. So
that's great. I didn't even know anything about Ed Palermo until my friend Andrea Davis that lives in Brooklyn told me about it. And it happened to be that they were performing the same weekend as Chasm. That's how we found you.
Yeah.
Does,
was that when Chasm played with us, or was that during?
No, he had his own show at the Iridium, I think the next night from your show.
Right.
Because I remember Ed saying something to the audience about, we have some Todd Rundgren fans here in the audience that are going to see Chasm's show tomorrow. So that was when you played, I think.
That was with me, though. That was the 2020.
Yeah.
That
It was
seems
great.
like about 100 years ago. So
I know, doesn't it? It really does. It's crazy.
That was 2020. That's a long
Yeah.
time.
yeah, because that was the first time I officially played with Todd. Also, was right then. It was right before the VJs Utopia tour. I did the Rock and Romance cruise with Todd.
Oh, wow.
How did you get connected with Todd?
Well, so again, this is like all kind of the same, variations on a theme. Was completely obsessed with Todd's music once I found it. I came kind of late to it, honestly.
I was going to ask you that. How old you were when you first I shouldn't say heard Todd, because everybody heard the early stuff, but we're first really discovered one of his albums and how deep and complicated that whole music thing is that he writes is unbelievable.
Yeah. So the first record I had, the first Todd record I bought, was Faithful. And the reason I bought that record was, so I was 14 or 15 at that time, and I was really, really getting heavily into recording and things like that. And so I had a studio in my teenage bedroom that was. It was really elaborate for a 14-year-old back then.
Cool.
Part of it was that I had some older friends that were professional engineers and musicians. So they gave me some gear or loaned me some gear, and I moved all my furniture out of my bedroom, much to my parents' delight. Moved in drum kits and amplifiers and hung microphones from the ceiling and, all this stuff. And I had started doing...
In the basement? Basement?
No, in my bedroom.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Where was that? Where was that in New York?
Yeah, New York.
Well,
so that at that time it was in Westchester.
In Westchester, okay.
Yeah. And so I was really into figuring out how records were made at that point. Like I was deconstructing records and trying to replicate how they were made. And I did a version in my studio of Fixin' a Hole by the Beatles. And I deconstructed everything, way back before you could get the isolated tracks and things like that. And I tried to replicate Fixin' a Hole, which...
How did you do that?
I mean, I had all the instruments, and I had I didn't even have a 4-track machine, but I had multiple 2-track reel-to-reels. And so I would bounce tracks from one reel-to-reel to the other and build up all the tracks.
Plus sound on each one, right?
Yes. Yeah. And so when I did that with Fixin' a Hole, and it came out, it was interesting, it wasn't great by any means, but it was a really interesting learning process. Well, right about that time, I heard Todd's version of Good Vibrations from Faithful on the radio. And I said, oh my God, he figured it out. Like he figured out how to do this. I have to get this record so I can figure out, based on the original version of these songs and Todd's version of the songs, hear the differences and maybe figure out some of the missing pieces of how these songs are assembled and how to create a sound like that.
Very cool.
So I bought Faithful and, listened to Strawberry Fields and listened to Good Vibrations but then I flipped it over to the other side and, I can't even describe the first time you hear, I don't know, Love of a Common Man and Cliche and, Verb to Love and all, and you hear this and you're like, oh my God, because that one side of that album is just that side is one of the greatest albums ever made.
Right.
So it's got rock because it's got Black and White and Hamburger Hell and but it's got ballad, it's got psychedelia, it's got everything in it that you want. So then I said, all right, I got it. Now I'm in deep. I got to get all the records.
Yeah.
So I went and got. I think the next record I got was probably Something Anything. And then I went back to the Runt records and then kind of moved forward because I think I heard a year or two later, I heard "Can We Still Be Friends" on the radio. And
Yeah.
this is back when, if you heard something on the radio that you loved, you were screwed, because you had to sit by the radio for the next however many days, hoping you might hear it again.
Right.
And that song in particular, and in particular the vocal breakdown in the middle, was something I needed to hear again and again, because it's another thing that's this pastiche of multi-tracking that I wanted to figure out how to do, because it was all these vocals that, yeah, I mean, you could say, if you wanted to be very grotesquely general about it, oh, it's like the Beach Boys, or oh, it's like the part in Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme, or whatever. But it's not either of those things. It's its own thing, and I needed to break it down and figure it out. But at that time, I didn't even know that it was Todd. I just heard that song on the radio, and I was like, I got to hear that song again. I got to hear that song again. And then I found out that it was Todd once I did hear it again, and I lost it. I was like, and I had to run out and buy the record. And so then I was in really deep, and I taught myself to play the piano, listening to Something Anything. I can still be counted on to, whip out Piss Aaron or Marlene or whatever, without a problem, because I spent days, hours, days, weeks, learning every little piano thing. And I said to Todd one time, I said, I taught myself to play the piano listening to you play. And
so
said,
you were never given musical lessons at all?
No.
You did it all yourself?
No. And when I told Todd that, he said, oh, I'm so sorry. Because Todd's piano technique is a little weird.
Yes, and he asked, do you raise your middle finger when you play that song?
Oh, no, I play the doggy chord all the time.
My goodness.
And, all of that kind of just piled into this sense memory and this muscle memory and this, general awareness of everything that I could get my hands on that Todd did. So if we move forward now, whatever it is, 30 years later, when I joined Ed's band, I found out that Ed, in addition to being a huge Zappa fan, is a huge Todd fan. Mm-hmm. Ed's perspective is Todd is basically in the same pantheon as, all of the great American songbook writers. He's not an isolated rock musician. His songwriting is in the classic style, in a lot of ways, of the greatest songwriters of all time. And I feel the same way. And so we started doing arrangements of Todd's music and weaving them into the shows that we did of Zappa music. And found out that basically there's a good crossover of people who like great music, regardless of how, what style it's in. And people that liked, some bizarre Zappa song also could appreciate Parallel Lines. There's an openness in those people's minds to great music that makes the genre irrelevant.
And Bruce, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have sort of a little show about you, because and when I met you and I found this out just last May, I guess we were talking at the hotel after one of the shows, and I realized that, oh my gosh, this man was a tribe. He's been a Todd fan ever since a teenager, like a lot of us are. And you have that mindset. It's sort of a different vision and ability to hear things.
Yeah,
music that most people are just like, what is that? And I thought it was really cool that you started out as a fan, like going crazy for his records, albums, artwork, everything, putting it up on your wall, like a lot of us did. And you ended up actually now being one of his band members, which is amazing.
It's
That's true utopian dream come true.
it's highly unlikely. Let's put it that way.
It is, but you so belong there. It's amazing how fantastic.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you really do.
So I can ask a kind of a more eclectic sort of a thing, because us Todd followers, fans, whatever, do you have the experience also that every time that you listen to this, depending on where you are in life, etc., it just speaks to you in a different way?
You know, the interesting part of that I always kind of try to explain to people about the effect of Todd's music is that Todd never makes the record you want him to make. He makes the record that he wants to make.
Yeah.
And depending on where you are in your life when that record comes out, you may have a wildly different reaction to it. You don't just, like, as a Todd fan, I never sat there and said, I can't wait till the next album because it's going to be like this feeling I've got from this album all over again. It's never that. You know, there's always a degree of kind of almost fear and trepidation where you're like, I wonder what it's going to be.
It's true. And when you start listening, and when you start listening to it, you go, I don't know about this. I was really looking for that. And then you listen to the whole thing, and then you're like, wow, this is even better than the last one. It's like everything is different.
So, you know, I'll give you a great example. When Acapella came out, it was not the Todd album that I wanted at that time. It wasn't. And I listened to it and I was like, whatever. Okay, it's like a parlor trick. I don't,
Now whatever. You're singing the song.
Not for me. Not for me.
Now you're singing it.
I listened to that record, now it's almost 40 years later, but I listened to that record 10 years ago and it was like listening to it for the first time.
Right.
Because I was at a point in my life where I went, oh my God, this is the most genius record ever. How stupid was I at that point in the 80s to miss that, to have overlooked it. And it has nothing to do with that. It just has to do with the fact that at that point in my life, that was not what spoke to me. So the beautiful part about all of this is there are things that, of course, we listen to when we're teenagers, and we can still kind of recapture the feeling of what it felt like to hear it the first time as a teenager. But there's a whole wealth of music out there that he's made over the decades that you can freely discover for the first time at any time in your life and create this new association with. And I'm finding that with a lot of the material that we've played on this tour so far that I was not terribly familiar with. Like I didn't particularly, honestly, I'm going to throw this right out here because it's relatively recent history. It's within the last 20 years when Liars came out. Everybody told me, oh my God, you're going to love it. It's just like an old Todd album. You're going to love this album. I listened to it. I was like, I don't like this album. And now, of course, I'm playing God Said and I'm playing, whatever every night. And I'm like, this album is amazing. And that's not me missing it as a teenager. That's me missing it as a 40-something-year-old. So it's your whole, perspective can change at any time.
So we say a lot of times that he's 5 to 10 years ahead of time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's, that's much more of a technological or stylistic thing than it is a songwriting thing. For me, the most important thing always, look, I'm one of these people that if the song is great, the record's great. I don't care how bad it sounds. I don't care how bad the record was made. I don't care whether it was played in time. I don't care. If the song is great, it's a great record. If the song is bad, no matter how perfectly that song is executed, it's still a bad record. And so I like to think of if if I took any of these songs from any era, you know, from Global or from Naz, and I sat down at the piano and played them, or sat down at the guitar and played them, it would be a great song. And that to me is much more important, because that's the thing that sticks in your head. The thing that sticks in your head is not the kick drum pattern. You know, the thing that sticks in your head is the song. And the most wonderful part about you know, playing with somebody who's got 40, 50 years worth of catalog out there is that the vast majority of those songs are great. And it doesn't really matter what style we play them in. It doesn't matter if they're bossa novas. It doesn't matter whatever. The song is great. It's a pleasure to play it.
Which, by the way, I love. I just thought I'd throw that in there. The bossa nova stuff is just fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I loved that record when it came out. Again, that's another weird thing. A lot of people didn't like that record.
A lot of people didn't like it.
I loved it.
I love it. Does he also, like, how did you guys develop the medley on this tour?
We made it up in about 15 minutes. Todd just said, okay, here's the list of songs. Figure out how we can glue these together. And we in the rehearsal studio, we just went, how about here?
Brilliant.
You know,
That's brilliant. I the first time I heard it, I kind of went like, oh, this is the cynical Todd. Get these songs out of the way so we can go and do something else.
it's easy to think that, but we have so much fun playing them.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying bad about that at all.
I think if we were just going through the motions, it would really feel like that. It would really feel perfunctory and whatever. But we have so much fun at that part of the show that I think everybody gets it. And you know, judging by the reaction of the crowds when we play it, they're so happy. It's so cathartic at the end of that show for that to happen, and for us to be like literally feeling like fans while we're playing it. You know,
and musically, continuity, you know, between the one song and the next was absolutely brilliant. You guys did an amazing job.
Yeah, it took us a little while to get comfortable with it, but
I'll bet.
So I just
guess what? What? There's people sitting waiting on Facebook for it to go live.
I just got a text from somebody who was like, "Are you guys starting?"
They somehow didn't click on the link in the event, which is weird.
Events are so difficult to deal with. I don't really.
But I'm going to just put a link to it right now in there.
In the event. Put the link in the event.
Sorry to interrupt. I wanted you to know what was going on.
Yeah, you're doing a great job, by the way, Veronica.
No, you guys are just, I'm glad to hear you guys talking together. That's nice.
Let me see.
Let's see if I can get this link reposted in the live now.
Okay, so what else can I ask you? Oh, I see. I'm just a fan. I'm just, I'm a fan band. I'm a fan guy. So we want to know. I want to know things like, what do you eat before the show?
Well, it's funny because you're supposed to like lose weight and get anorexic when you're on tour. I gained like 15 pounds. And we eat very well. Let's put it that way. We're treated very well. But so we're all now trying to, toward the end of the tour, we were all really, in the last leg, we were trying really hard not to overdo it. And there were a lot of Caesar salads being eaten instead of, instead of the fried chicken.
Well, we love the Chasm Strickland behind the scenes stuff. I love that stuff.
I'll tell you, for me, the most, I wouldn't say unexpected, because that's not it. It's that's the wrong word. But the most pleasant surprise about the whole tour has been hanging out with the guys in the band. We all get along really well. Like nobody's snitting at each other, and
it shows. It shows when you're performing. You can just tell. I love the way you and Chasm feed off each other when you sing A Woman's World. that's
Yeah,
that's great.
we're even by the last week of the last leg, when we've been out for almost 4 months, we were still all going out to lunch together, going out to dinner together, hanging out together.
Crazy.
So, that's a really, really pleasant way to tour, because it's not always like that. There's always some weird friction or something. This has been so pleasant.
There's just something in the headlines the other day. I don't want to go through, but there's something in the headlines about a band that had an altercation on stage.
Sure, Jane's Addiction. We're playing with them in St. Louis at the Evolution Festival.
Oh, really?
Assuming that they don't cancel the rest of their tour, but
wow,
that's in St. Louis, is it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that should,
check it
that
out.
should be fun.
They just canceled one show.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen there.
We'll
Bottom
see.
line is you guys get along well, and that's really important.
Yeah, and we don't have, look, we're old and grown up, but that doesn't mean anything, because so are they in Jane's Addiction. But they also have a history of, substance abuse problems and interpersonal issues and whatever. We don't really have that issue, and it's nice at the end of the show, when you're getting back on the bus with everybody, to not be like, ugh, I gotta be on the bus with Prairie again, And me, I'm like, yay, I get to get on the bus with Prairie and make
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess it's kind of do your own
That
thing.
must be interesting experience with Prairie.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
we have people now. We have people watching because they're all figuring it out. It was on YouTube. Maybe I did something, but oh well, that's okay. There'll be a record of it anyway, so they can go back.
Yeah, anything exciting that you may have missed is going to be out there in perpetuity for the aliens to find.
That's right. That's so funny. Bruce is taking questions. If you all want to type questions in or ask to be a guest, that's fine. We can put you on the screen with them. We're having a good time.
I can just make stuff up and tap dance a little.
Yeah.
But
I used to tap dance.
So Don, to answer your question earlier more thoroughly, but I can now, since there's folks here, I can circle around to the end of that story, which is how I wound up in the band, right?
Okay.
And so let's go in the Wayback Machine to 2016, maybe. I don't know. It's a long time ago now. In the big band, like I said, we were doing occasional Todd songs interspersed between the Zappa material, and enjoyed the reaction that was getting from folks. And so we said, we should do a whole record of Todd and Zappa juxtaposed, right? So we made this record called The Adventures of Zod Zundgren, which has interspersed Todd and Zappa stuff, and sometimes crossing over itself, where there are Zappa figures within Todd songs and Todd figures within Zappa songs.
I've got to get that album or CD, whatever you call it nowadays.
I don't call it anything.
A little chip,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah, we'll have it implanted in your brain. But Lynn, I'll get to that in a moment. That's a good question. So we did that record, and we had a CD release party for it at Iridium. And that day we get a call from Greg Bissonette, who's the drummer in the Ringo's All-Star Band. And Greg said, hey, I think I'm going to bring Todd to the show tonight. And we're like, yeah, okay, that's probably not going to happen, because we know Todd's busy and whatever. And
Right.
whether or not Greg wanted to bring him is another question, or whether Todd would actually show up. But we put them on the guest list, obviously. And, we start the show. There's no sign of them. It's fine. We're a few songs in. And there I see Todd coming down the stairs with Greg. And they sit right down in front of me, basically, like right at my knee. And I realize as Todd walks in, I look at my set list and go, oh my God, the next song I have to sing is Hello, It's Me. And I got to sing it in front of Todd. And I was like, great, sure. There's no pressure there at all. So we launch into Hello, It's Me. And when we start it, Todd realizes that our arrangement, it's a jazz arrangement, but it's based on the Naz arrangement of Hello, It's Me, not the Something Anything version, right? Which is much slower and has the vibes in it and stuff like that. It's a very like slow burn Hello, It's Me.
Mm-hmm.
And Todd goes like this, yeah, because nobody does that,
Wow.
People and I was like, okay, I just got blessed. Great, cool, So we do that, and we did a few songs, and Todd seemed to be really enjoying himself. He was kind of standing up on his little seat, and so I got bold, and I said, Todd, do you want to come up and sing a song? Knowing full well that the answer would be, are you out of your mind? Absolutely
right.
not. Thing. But no, he goes, okay, and he bounced up on stage, and I was not expecting that to happen at all.
You never know.
I didn't have a good plan for what to do.
Yeah. And Kauai, I asked him how he felt when people sang his songs, like those full bands that we did and created. It was great, the chorus and all that stuff. And he looked so happy because I happened to be sitting right next to him. And I said, how do you feel when you watch all these people that love your music so much and they do all this performance and go to all the trouble to get it together and make it happen? He said, I love it.
Yeah. No, he's genuine, and so he gets up on stage and I said, well, let me see what's in our book here that we can do. And I looked and I said, well, a lot of these have really weird arrangements that it would be hard for him to know, where we're going. And I wanted to make it easy on him where he could just sing it like it was the record, even though the arrangement would be a little different underneath, it would track appropriately. So I look and I said, oh, well, how about Emperor of the Highway? Because the form of that song is very much like the record. So he goes, oh yeah, okay. So I said, all right, so there's two vocal parts there. There's the lead part, right? And then there's like the counterpoint part.
Excuse me.
I said, no, you're fine. I said, what do you want to do?
More light. The sun's going down.
So Todd says, I'll do, you do the lead part. I'll do the counterpoint part. I was like, oh my God, great. Again, no pressure there. So I've got to start the song, So I started and he comes in with the, lo, methinks that thou hast driven too far part, And it was fun and wild and woolly, because Todd didn't know the words and, it was
Right.
But it was great. It was a lot of fun. And I figured he would just then hop off the stage and he goes, what do you want to do now? And I was like, okay. So,
he was having a good time. That's good.
Yeah, he was having a good time. So I said, all right, well, how about Song of the Viking? He goes, great. Okay. So we do Song of the Viking, which he knew the words to, and he killed it. Like, that's not an easy song to sing. I can tell you from direct experience of having to sing it. It is not an easy song to sing. And he knocked it out of the park. And we had a great time, and he dismissed himself, but that little germ there.
When was that again? I'm sorry. When
was it? Like 2016?
I don't know if I was there at that one. I'm trying to figure it out.
So I had met Todd once before because Jesse had introduced me to Todd at the Iridium when Todd played with the Les Paul trio there. And
how did you meet Jesse? That was after you finished this story. If you wouldn't mind telling us how you met Jesse, because I know he was.
Yeah, so in between sets of that show, Jesse came out and said, "Hey, you want to meet Todd?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so he brought me back. So Todd kind of had met me once and then had seen me perform and then had been on stage with me. So I was at least in his head enough to that he knew of my existence, and that was like, that's it for me. Like, I was like, that's fantastic. Todd knows who I am. He was happy singing with me.
Wow.
I don't need anything more than that. Well, when Jesse got sick, I'm skipping a part. I skipped a part. So about a year later, Chasm came and did a whole show with us at the Iridium with the big band, where I arranged a whole bunch of Utopia music. And Kaz was fantastic. He was so good. And, you know, Kaz being Kaz, he's very self-deprecating, you know, and so he came backstage after the show and he was like, I'm so sorry. I should have prepared much more than I did. And I was like, are you kidding? You were fantastic. But then I was in Chasm's awareness, you know, for being able to, at the very least, arrange and execute Utopia music. Cool. So when Jesse got sick, Chasm called me and said, can you sub for Jesse on the Chasm's Utopia tour? Because he knew that I knew the material. Again, this is prepare for the job you want, right?
Right.
He knew that I was sensitive to its nuances, you know, like I knew it inside, you know, I didn't just know how to like strum the song and sing my way through it. So I said, of course. So this was probably December of 2019, thereabout. And at some point in January, I get a call from Chasm while I'm on with Ed at a sound check. And I answer the phone and Kaz goes, hey, would you be available to do a Todd gig on the cruise? And I said, of course. He goes, before you say yes, you should know that it's an unpredictable gig. So you're going to have to learn about 75 songs and we don't know which ones Todd's going to call. And I was like, I don't care. Bring it up.
Yeah, right. Who cares? I'm coming. I'm happy. I'm just living my dream. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And so that was a few days, maybe 2 days or 3 days before Chasm's tour started.
Wow.
So that was like February 27th or 28th of 2020. So no rehearsal, no sound check, really. Get on the boat, show up on stage, play. And, you know, it was fine. It was great. And that was the proof that Todd needed that I could get through like basic Todd training, you know? So what was supposed to happen is then in 2020, we were supposed to do a Wizard of True Star tour, which got canceled because of COVID. But I had already like learned everything and, you know, all of that stuff. And then, you know, COVID happened. It killed the Chasm tour in the middle of the tour. We were just getting good. Oh, it's this close. And then Jesse got his transplant. So I had done my duty. I had kept the chair warm for him, which is all my job was to begin with in the first place. So I was very happy to have done that. And I was very happy to then go to the shows and see Jesse back performing. And so I was like, great, I did my duty in the Todd universe. I've done what I need to do. But, you know, I
must
skipped
have been
over.
very difficult for you to jump in like that and then, you know, not be sure about the future and so on.
Right, and I skipped over us doing the Clearly Human tour, and you know, because that was wonderful, and you know, but again, I was there as a sub. That was not my job to take. Sure. It was my job to hold it down, right? And so I did the thing, and Jesse called me a couple of times while we were doing Clearly Human, and you know, thanked me for doing a good job and for holding down the fort and all of that. But I was so happy to cede the chair back to him when the time came. And and thought that that was pretty much the end of it. But as you know, as we know, that didn't quite work out that way. So I feel like I'm just doing the job that I promised him I would do while he was alive. You know, I'm going to continue to do that job for him, basically. So you know, that's where I am now.
Fulfilling promises. I get
Yeah.
it. I totally get it.
Yeah. So
That's part of your angelic reason for being here as well, is so you could succeed and have that amazing contribution and you know, musical collaboration with your idols,
yeah,
so to speak. I mean,
Yeah.
that's an amazing thing, I think.
I'll tell you a little, just a little tidbit of what reminds me on a nightly basis what's up and how I'm there and what my role is, which is my microphone still has Jesse written on it because it was the one that he used.
Oh,
And the guys were going to take that sticker off of it, and I was like, no,
no.
leave that on there, because we both get to be there then, which is a lovely thing.
It's beautiful.
So I saw a couple of folks popping in, and Lynn asked about,
That's what I take to work every day for my lunch. I
Love
had
it.
these stickers made in honor of Jesse. I took that picture of him at Toddstock in Virginia.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I passed them out. I don't know if you got one or not, but
I
they're gone.
did.
Oh, good.
So, you know, I'm going to answer Lynn's question about honest work, and I'm going to answer it as an adjunct to what I was just saying, which is I'm well aware from being in the audience that spot that I walk into is the Jesse spot where he had done the other part in honest work. But I'll tell you an interesting thing about honest work. We didn't really rehearse it. It's one of the highlights of the show for me, obviously, and the fans seem to really appreciate us doing it and whatever. But when we got together to rehearse for this tour, we sat down to have a vocal rehearsal, and we didn't know who was going to sing the third part. I knew it already, so I said, well, I know it if you want me to try it. And so Todd and Kaz and I sang through it once at a table, and they were like, okay, that's fine, you do it. And then we didn't rehearse it anymore until we hit the stage for a real show, because we just skipped over it every time we rehearsed.
I've heard that every time that he's done that with other things, because Todd's so quick that way. When he hears the right thing, he's just like, okay, great.
Yeah, he's like,
let's move on.
That'll be fine.
I've heard that about him, and which is amazing that he can capture that so quickly that he knows it's going to be the right thing.
Well, so in rehearsals, when we would get to that part of the set where we would normally have rehearsed that song, instead Todd would basically sing the first line of honest work like an Irish jig. He'd go, I'm not afraid to bend my back, I'm not afraid, like that. And then we'd all laugh and we'd move on to the next song. So the first time we did it, like for real, on stage, it was pretty nerve-wracking, because I was like, we haven't really gone over this enough as far as I'm concerned. But I like the blend of our voices, and it sounds good. And we don't have our in-ears in, so we're really listening to each other really closely, which is a very...
Oh, that's interesting.
It's a very surreal experience, you know, because when you have your ears in and stuff, it's like you're listening to a record. But when you take your ears out and you're standing next to those two voices, Todd and Kazim's, whose voices are so deeply embedded into my psyche from listening to those records for so long, and two of, you know, the most incredible voices ever, to be the third one in that is a very surreal moment every night for me still. Like when I come in and I hear the three voices stack, I'm like, whoa, listen to that. That's so cool. and it is cool. And it's like every night I get it. It's like I get a chill from it. It's really cool.
It's like a dream. It never goes away. That feeling for that music and those people and the way they sound. It's what it is.
I'll tell you, this is unrelated to Todd, but I had a very similar experience because in the big band we play with a lot of the alumni from Zappa's bands. We played with most of them, all the living ones pretty much. And the first time I did a show with Napoleon Murphy Brock, who was the singer in Zappa's band in the early 70s, through the mid 70s. I forget what song we're doing. I think Village of the Sun, I don't even remember. We were doing some song and he was standing right next to me, like our microphones were very close together. And he was standing right next to me. So I could hear him singing in the air, not what was coming out of my monitor. I could hear him like right out of his voice box. And it was such an unsettling feeling because I had listened to that song with headphones so many times in my life and heard his voice kind of like wrapped around my head. To hear that same voice singing right into my ear was a really weird experience. And I get that same thing every night with Honest Work, where Todd is right next to me and I hear his voice in my ear, not through a speaker or anything. It's a very, very unexpected pleasure.
You can smell his hair. I got to smell his hair a couple of times.
I mean, we were in close quarters during that song, and I always make sure, like, before I go on stage, I do like the movie thing and make sure like I have a breath mint or something, because we're really on top of each other.
Yeah.
So, I'm so naive. I didn't even realize that you do have like things in the ear, and that's the way that you're communicating. And is that like, can you also speak through that thing?
No. It's like having headphones on.
It levels your sound out, so you don't sound. You're not listening. It's weird when I've sung backup on stage. I learned a lot about that, how that sound travels. Those kind of isolate what you're supposed to be doing.
It basically makes it so that you don't have to have everything so loud because it's right in your ears. So
and each person has their own mix?
Yes. Yeah.
Got it.
So the same way you would have your own mix coming out of a monitor on the floor, it's just a mix going into those.
And Utopia was one of the first bands to ever use those. Did you know that?
I did. Todd doesn't like them, though. He doesn't use them.
No, he doesn't like it.
He uses the side fills, which are those little skinny speakers on the side of the stage. They're pointing straight at him like they were headphones.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a question for you there from Zan.
I see Zan. Hi, Zan.
Also, Lynn had one before that, right?
Well, Lynn was asking about Honest Work, so I think
Okay. No, you got her.
So this is a really important question. What's the secret to finding a way to be in the moment when you're performing, and also what are some of the favorite moments on stage? It's really easy to kind of space out when you're playing every night, and you don't need to think that much to execute the song because you're doing it kind of on muscle memory. It's really, really easy to have the whole show go by and go, what just happened? Well, did we do that show? I don't even remember. It's like when you're driving and listening to music or something, and you're like, wait a minute, how have I gone an extra 60 miles without noticing where I was? So I take specific moments in the show because they become triggers in my head to disengage from that autopilot, right? And force myself to look around the stage and look at some faces in the audience, and oh look, there's so and so, or whatever. Where the trigger is that little spot in the show, and one of them is there's a part of God said that it's very easy to be on autopilot for because my part is very easy. So as soon as I start playing that part, I start looking around. So if you'll, this is now, you know, the secret. Watch, if we play God Said, I will start doing this, where I look at the proscenium of the stage. I look up in the balcony, because there's a thing that happens with the light. One of the spots shines up my butt so that it projects like an 80-foot shadow of me up on the
It's
on
an
the
awakening.
Yeah.
It's Bruce's butt on the ceiling.
So like Chasms is over there and mine is over here. And so I take that moment and look at that and go, that's so cool. And then I look at Todd, and Todd is framed in this incredible weird light. And I take that moment to say, how unusual and unlikely is this scenario, you know, that I get to experience this. And it doesn't matter that I experienced it last night. It's just as amazing tonight. And that's the approach you have to take, is you have to say, every single one of these shows is just as important as the prior one, right? And it's not a repeat of the show you did last night. It's not. It's maybe the only time that the vast majority of those audience members will have seen this show, right? So it's equally important to deliver that show every single night and not take a night off. And you have to have that mindset, or else we've all seen shows where people sleepwalk through the show, and it's not fun. So I try and make a point in several points in the show.
In terms of stage picture, it probably looks from the audience perspective that, you know, you're looking up towards the heavens.
Yeah, so I will go with that.
They're looking back at you.
I'll
You're basically just playing with the lights.
Yeah, I'll go with the concept that it was a creative decision.
Yes.
But the other part of Zan's question was my favorite moments during the tour on stage. Usually it's my favorite moments are either when Todd does something that really unbalances us, like he sings the wrong words or something, and we go into an immediate panic that he's skipped a verse, or like, how's he going to fix it? How's he getting out of this? Because that's what makes that show, you know, unique, right? Is something just happened that's so weird that we have to recover from it.
Any particular show that you had? Because we've been to these shows, we've seen it happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, the funniest one he ever did was, I don't remember where it was, but it was sort of in the middle of the tour, where he 3 or 4 songs too early, he started playing Worldwide Epiphany, because he starts it, and we all were looking at each other like, what? And so we're like, all right, well, I guess we're playing Worldwide Epiphany. So we start playing, and we're all looking at Todd to see if he's going to stop, because he was not supposed to be playing that, but he didn't stop. But you could see smoke coming out of his ears, like he was trying to figure out, how can I get out of this? And we got all the way, like, you know, through the first verse and everything, and he finally he went like this, just stop.
Oh, wow.
Because he'd run through all the permutations in his head and said, nope, there's no graceful way out of this. Can't figure it out, because then we end with the wrong song, or then the, you know, Hawking comes in the wrong place and it won't emotionally be right. And like, so
you guys, your job is
just
the boss.
play it.
He's the boss.
Yep.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I love it when he forgets the words, and he'll start singing, and he'll say, and I forgot the words.
Well, every night that we do, shoot, what song is it? I can't even think of what song it is, but it's one where we answer the line that he says at the end. Me and Chasm answer the line that he says at the end, and he'll mess up the words, and we're trying to listen to which one did he say, because we don't want to say the wrong one as the answer to it. It's always terrifying.
That's great.
But the other thing that I like is when we do occasionally take liberties with our stage position, you know, like Kaz runs over to my little area, and we run around each other or jump onto Prairie's Riser or something like that. Those are fun. It's dangerous because you can't mess up when you do that. You have to play it right when you do that, or else you'll never be allowed to do that again. Like that's don't do that anymore because you couldn't play when you ran over there. So. Right. So, but those things are really fun. It's a really enjoyable moment to interact with each other on the stage, because we don't get to do it very often in this particular layout where we're in different levels and far apart from each other. That was one thing I really loved in the Clearly Human tour was at the end of the show during I Love My Life, where Michelle and the girls would come running onto our risers and like grab onto our necks or unbutton our ties things like that. So those are fun. It's when you get a little range of improvisation.
That was fun. That was a pretty special experience, actually. Those Chicago.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah.
A lot of talent and love on that stage, and it's just we in the audience totally get it. We really do.
I have to say again, reiterate because I've said this before, most of the people joined, I think, is that the great pleasures of this tour is that all the guys in the band we get along great, and we hang out together, and we all have great appreciation for each other's abilities. I mean, Gil is one of the most amazing musicians I've ever seen in my life. He's just an insane genius.
He is. He's amazing.
Gil's path and yours actually also are similar too.
By the way, here's a little bit of trivia: is I sent in an audition tape to be the keyboard player for the Utopia thing, and thank God Gil got it over me.
Wow,
because he's so much better than me. It would have been a disaster if I had gotten it.
Wow.
Well, I think they're fortunate that you came along their way, Mr. Bruce. Really.
Well, I had my own time, I guess.
Yeah, it was meant to be. It was the tribe aura that got you there. Sorry about my bird screaming there.
That's all right. I think some of the the folks that have I know one of the things we're doing on this leg is we're doing like a sound check, meet and greet kind of package. I think the folks that come to the sound checks are going to hear some really amusing things coming off of that stage before we actually do like real sound check, because Gil starts playing the most random things and we all try and follow him, but he's on such an intensely high level that we just make a mess of it underneath him. But you're going to get to hear that in like real life.
Good. I can't wait. That's going to be fun.
I hope some people video some of that so the folks that are not able to go to those get to hear it.
God,
they will.
I really hope they don't.
How do you feel about Bearsville, Bruce? And all that stuff going on.
I'm very, very excited to be there. Again, as somebody who grew up a fan and knowing where all those records were made and looking at the credits, I was an obsessive with credits. Like I know who the third assistant engineer was on anything. I was one of those guys that would really pore over.
You're worse than I was.
Yeah. So, Bearsville to me means a lot in the historical context of everything. So I'm just excited to play there. Plus I have a bunch of friends that live in Woodstock and up there in that general area. So that'll be nice to play for them. I know it as a fan myself, how cool it is that we're playing there. So I can only extrapolate that out to all the other fans. And I think we're all going to have a great time together. I'm happy to be joining the folks at the party. I'm going to play a little set by myself and try and not screw that up. And I'll try and sit in with the bands a little bit and we'll see how that goes. That's always terrifying.
There's also two jams.
You know the songs until you're actually playing them.
That'll be fun. You're talking about the fan band? That's gonna well, not a fan band anymore, really.
No, they're a real band.
Yeah, we're all professionals at this point. After all
Yeah.
this time, for God's sake, really.
Just yeah, it's
But yeah, they're always excited to have you join in. That'll be nice.
Look, I consider the fan bands just bands playing that music. It's not, it's not like, oh, well, we're going to throw together a bunch of fans with a tambourine and a kazoo.
Yeah,
That's
right. It actually
that's not what
sounds
it's
good
like.
too sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well-
I'm happy to play it. So if anybody has any requests, I take the same policy as Todd. I don't take requests.
Well, okay then. So I want to ask you to sing something today, right now. Will I?
No. That's
Nothing.
Probably not a good idea.
No chance. Well, you're out on the road in a couple of days anyway, and so you're probably going to need to get your rest now while you can, right? Before the big event.
Yeah, I'll sleep on the plane.
So also right after the Rundgren Radio thing for the next 2 days, there's also a jam prov, which you're certainly
right.
Welcome to, as well as anyone else also is welcome to come and to play. And if you want to do that, then just make yourself known. And well, you already know you.
Or just show up. It's going to be like one time lunchtime, and the other day it'll be like way before your sound check. So, yeah.
But if people are coming to play, please make sure that you make yourselves known so we can prepare for that, et cetera, et cetera. But I assume you're going to be a little busy. It's going to be the afternoon of a show. But you never know. If you decide to, just tell Todd I'm busy going to the jam prov. I can't be bothered by the rest of this weird rehearsal crap.
And I have a date with Dawn and a date with Veronica, and she's going to sing, so I'm not going to miss that.
It'll work itself out. We don't. I a lot of those days are mostly lost just because we finish so late. I mean, it's not that it's that late, but by the time we get out and have our dinner, because we're not eating dinner until 11 o'clock at night or something like that. And
that's murder. Then you just go to sleep, or you talk to people for a while until 2 a.m, and then you go to sleep.
Yeah, so a lot of times the next day is like I'll get up and shower like right before sound check. But
and we were, as fans, we're so thankful that you guys a lot of times right after the gig are willing to come out and say hello to us. It's really very sweet. It's been a tradition of Todd's band for a very long time to do that.
Very much so. Very appreciative.
We watch Todd go out and take pictures and sign too many records and sign T-shirts and stuff like that. And if he can do that and give his time that way, we have absolutely no reason not to do the same.
I feel bad for him sometimes. I can't believe sometimes how invasive people are. I mean, they're just like, they come with these stacks of things, and you can tell he's taught. He's just given all of you this show, and he's got to stand there. And sometimes I feel bad for him.
I do think some people, take advantage of his good nature that way.
Over the top.
Sign one record, that's fine. Don't give me your whole catalog, and to sign. Or a stack of pictures, because I know if you've got a stack of pictures to get signed, you're putting them all on eBay. You're not.
Of course. I witnessed at Michelle's birthday party in LA a few years back. It was about Michelle, and he was there to watch the performances and all this it was a lot of fun, and he was having a good time. And this one person just showed up that wasn't even invited. They get in somehow with a stack full like this.
Yeah.
And asked him to sign those records when he was watching actually Michelle with this Polynesian band perform on her birthday party.
Right.
What nerve some people have.
Well, hey.
Yeah.
Again,
but he didn't say anything. He just signed them.
Well, you know why? Because if he snubs one person, the next thing is, oh, Todd Rundgren, he's such an asshole, blah, 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 blah. You don't need that negativity in your life.
Yeah, but so many people don't even bother giving people the time of day by even acknowledging their existence. It's
Right.
really nice. We have a true family. We feel extended family. I mean, if it weren't for his music, I wouldn't know these hundreds of friends that I've enjoyed time with and had special events and really good times because
Yeah,
the love of
that,
Todd, and it's
it's
just
one of the
great.
things that I found out right out of the gate when we were doing the VJs Utopia tour. Hold on, I have to pick my dog up. When we were doing the VJs Utopia tour,
Pick him up.
Gotta see the dog. Gotta see the
this
dog.
is Angus.
He's too cute.
Hi, Angus. Hi.
Hi, Angus.
Angus.
He's cute.
Angus. Okay.
Was right out of the gate, the first show we did with the VJs Utopia, I got to meet a whole bunch of the fan contingent, and I remember saying to Chasm, like on the second show or something, I was like, man, your fans are so nice. Your fans are so respectful and deeply into it and whatever. And I think that's one of the reasons that the fans have such kind of unique access to us, to Todd. I mean, who has Todd stocks? Nobody, that's a crazy thing to do. But it's because it is that big community of people that care so deeply about it that he feels like he wants to do that. Because it would be very easy to not do anything like that. I mean, nobody else does stuff like that.
It was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You do a mean trivia quiz, by the way, about you stumped me on a couple of the Todd songs.
You guys were too good.
You stumped me a couple of times.
I'll just throw in one more crazy part of that, which is that as a community, we do have power, and we do have power to heal ourselves within our community. We've done some of those healing types events, and it's just becoming so important that we gather together as good friends and Todd fans community that we have been for years and years. And it's just getting more and more important to be able to do that and to also be open to other people. It's just really so important.
Thank you, Don.
I also find, that it's not just a bunch of insular, folks that have been in it for the last 30 years doing it or whatever. The fan group is very welcoming to new people. Like, oh, this is your first show? Come with us. Come, sit over here, and here's how we do it at the end of the show, and And that's a really nice thing to see.
Yeah, well, the gatherings before the shows, we always meet up at restaurants and reserve a section, or if we can, most of the place, and it all starts like that, and then we continue, and it's really, really nice.
And this year we have the 2 jam provs, shameless.
Yes, we know.
Well, you don't, not necessarily, so I'm trying to make that clear.
So what are you finally making for dinner tonight, Bruce? You said you were cooking up something, and
yeah, I hedged and had dinner early instead.
Oh, good for you. That was smart.
Yeah.
Great.
So
what did you have?
We had Mexican.
Oh, okay, good. Oh, you are a part Mexican, aren't you? If I remember.
Am. Hold on, I just did a weird thing to my screen. Give me a second here. There we go. Yes, I'm half Mexican, so but that had little to do with my choice of Mexican food for dinner.
That's probably true. I like Mexican too, and I'm Polish, so whatever it is. So I don't know. Did you want to tell us anything more about like your next getting out on the road? And well, that's going to last a couple of months now, right?
Yeah, we'll be done right around Halloween. It's this is going to be a relatively short leg compared to the first one, which was quite long.
Yes, I thought so.
So, so we're going to try and like come roaring out of the gates and give you some good shows. And I think it'll help everybody's stamina a little that it's a little shorter. That was a long haul, the first one. And
It's so great not even going to the shows anymore, but also seeing our friends from all around the world that we get to see and gather. And like Don said, it's really, really very, very important to everybody. And in my heart, that's how I feel. And it's, my life. And I'm very happy, very honored. And again, thank you for taking your time. I know it's close to travel, but that was really nice of you to come out and
yeah, it's my pleasure.
Time with us.
I'm looking forward to seeing all you guys out there. And I know it can get a little crazy sometimes at the end of the night. And like we're hustling to get to the bus on some nights because we have a long drive, like we're not even going back to a hotel or something like that. But don't ever feel like, that you can't wave and say hi or whatever. I'm not, no matter how much I'm rushing, I'm not going to just like zoom past you and like try to hide. So, if you're out there, out on the street and you see me, yell. If you have a good brewery recommendation.
Yo, Bruce.
Yeah.
Come have a beer. We're right across the street. Come on.
I like to hear that. And, I will pop in. If I know everybody's at a bar nearby, I might pop over, so.
Well, that's good. You'll have a lot of dates coming up over the next couple of months.
But please send me all your brewery recommendations in every city. That's number one choice.
Okay. I don't know about Bearsville. I haven't been to Bearsville in, I figured out 40 some odd years.
Well, there's a lot of good beer in upstate New York.
I love it there. My friends went to New Paltz for college, and I spent a lot of time there. I even snuck up to Todd's house a couple of times. But that's another day. That's another story for another time.
So did Mark David Chapman. We're not going to talk about this.
No. Oh, gosh, no.
All right, guys. I'm going to go feed.
Thank you, Bruce. Go eat. Well, you already ate, but go feed the dogs. And I'm going to eat because I'm hungry. And Don, thank you so much for joining in because you really helped us a lot.
Thank you, Veronica. You did a great job. And have a good meal. And Angus, you lucky little boy.
Yeah, nobody's eating Angus except for the Angus meat.
No, I'm not bringing Angus to Springfield.
Forger also made a Forger. He made an appearance. Forger, he made an appearance. That's it. I'm done. See you guys.
Right, guys.
Okay, love you guys.
Pleasure.
See you soon.
Looking forward to seeing you all out there.
Okay. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now the next question is, how do you get out of this?
You hit, you just hit the X.
Veronica, love you. You did a great job.
Don, thank you. I don't know what I would have done without you, really.
Well, you would have done it without me, but I'm glad you did it with me. And please
everybody
tell
was waiting
about the jam problem.
Everybody was waiting on Facebook for it to start, and it wasn't.
But this is live, and I got to go anyway.
Oh, okay. Bye. Me too. See ya. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming. Bye.